Looks like we're having people have some technical difficulties with the audio. I don't think we had anything going on a minute ago, but can you hear me now? Wonderful. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I will take down our icebreaker question here. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Alumni Launch Series event, Launching Your Financial Future. Thank you for taking the time to attend this event from the comfort of your home or office. My name is Garrett, and I'm the Alumni Marketing Coordinator for the UWM Alumni Association, and I'll be your moderator today. We have a great speaker for you this afternoon, but I want to go over a quick housekeeping item first. After our speaker's presentation concludes, we have reserved time at the end for questions, so we ask that you please hold your questions until the end. But without further ado, let's get started. Presenting today, we have a UWM alum, Jamar Cooper, who earned his bachelor's in secondary education in 2003 and his master's of public administration, in 2005. Jamar currently serves as an executive director of Third Decade, a nonprofit dedicated to promoting financial literacy to young adults. Jamar came to Third Decade having served nearly 20 years in leadership in the government and nonprofit sectors, leading departments and organizations specializing in public policy, finance, public safety, and community and economic development. Jamar believes strongly in community service and the power of mentoring, having served on multiple boards, committees, and task forces, most recently serving as the chair of the City of Milwaukee Pension Crisis Task Force and leading the Milwaukee Public Library Financial Sustainability Task Force. He has also received honors such as the Milwaukee Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Award and was named to the Milwaukee Biz Times Notable BIPOC Executives List. Please help me welcome Jamar Cooper.
Thank you, Garrett. I really appreciate the introduction. And when I hear my bio, I'm like, wow, I'm old now. It makes me kind of think about something like 03 and 05 were a while ago. And I'm a proud graduate of UW Milwaukee, and I'm excited to come back and just be able to talk about personal finance and some of the things which we hold dear at my organization, Third Decade, today. So let me get this screen share. So as I mentioned, I am a proud graduate of UWM, and there's a lot of things that I've been able to accomplish in my career, but right now I'm at a point where I'm excited to be able to be in a position to talk about how personal finance can have such a great effect on young adults as they move forward in their career. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and it's something I want to share with the world. I'm excited to have the chance to share with you all today. Presentation moving forward. There we go. So as I mentioned, I'm the proud executive director of Third Decade, which is an nonprofit organization headquartered in Arizona with the mission of changing financial futures forever starting today. Our goal is to really figure out how we can get to young adults and provide that information and knowledge that they did not receive, probably from their family, from the education system, or just in general, that a lot of young people in a lot of positions are not receiving, so that we can bridge that gap to make sure that they have a solid financial future to be as successful as possible and to start building wealth for themselves and for their families as well, too. So who does Third Decade serve? So we serve young adults ages 18 through 35. They must have a household income of less than $75,000 annually, but we also encourage them to do our program with their partner as well, too. So if they do that, the two-earner household must have less than $120,000 annually in income. And our program is totally free. So we just ask for two things from our participants: that they have a willingness and ability to save, manage debt, and start a financial plan, and that they're committed to attending all financial education classes and mentoring sessions with Third Decade. So let's just give a quick overview of what our program is at Third Decade. There's three specific components: education, mentorship, and investment. The educational component consists of four classes totaling 10 hours, all virtual, and they focus on personal finance, credit, debt, housing, literally anything you need to know. Our name kind of says it all. Third Decade. We believe there's certain things that folks need to know by their third decade in life, in their 20s, and we really want to provide that education for them as well, too. After they finish their classes, we provide a 2-year relationship with a mentor, a volunteer mentor from the financial services sector, who's going to work with them to create a financial plan, create goals, and help them really just maintain those goals and figure out how they can become as stable as possible over the next 2 years, moving forward into the future as well, too. And last but not least, the last component is investment. Once they are all finished with our program, we do a matching 250 contribution to a Roth IRA, for our participants. We call it a jumpstart. Most of our participants, about 70%, do not have a Roth IRA. Many of them have not heard of a Roth IRA coming into the program. So we call this our jumpstart to really get them started into their savings as well too. As I mentioned, all of our things are handled virtually. We're a national nonprofit. We currently have served folks in over 35 states, and we have mentors in over 26 states. So we encourage folks throughout the country, and we know UWM alumni are far and wide, to enroll in our program just to get the knowledge and information that we provide. So just really quickly about our education timeline, I want to just show everyone. So these are some of the things which we teach and talk about in our classes. Our core vision, avoiding and reducing debt, the Magnificent Seven, which we're going to talk about today, budgeting, come back, talk about credit scores, investing, savings, diversification. We talk a lot about income taxes, renting to owning, savings account, retirement accounts, insurance, end of life planning. And we just really want to drill home these concepts as in depth as possible, which is why it's 10 hours of very specific education and training. And then, as I mentioned, after that education portion, we connect you with a mentor. So you're going to have your initial discovery meeting where you sit down for 2 hours and set up your goals for the next 2 years and in general, just so you can figure out what it is you want to do. And they're going to create a financial plan for you, the exact same financial plan that you would get if you went to a wealth advisory firm. We use the same tools and technology that they use. You'd come back a year later. Let's update that plan. Let's see how things have been moving. Did you get married? Did you get a divorce? Did you get a house? Did you get a car? Did you get an inheritance? What happened? Let's update your goals and make sure you're still on track. And then we come back a year later, so at the end of year 2, and have the exact same conversation to update that plan and make sure you're headed towards financial stability in the long run. So that's Third Decade's program in a nutshell. And we really want to get as many UWM alumni as possible in our program, and we're really excited to see how we can get that moving. So, which kind of brings us to why I'm here a little bit today. So based upon some of the principles at Third Decade, I really wanted to spend some time talking about financial security and some of the principles in which we hold dear that really we feel help lead to financial security. So we really feel that there's a 3-legged stool towards financial security, when you start with managing cash flow, coming down with savings and investing. When we talk about managing cash flow, we talk about budgeting, and we want you to have a plan. We talk about managing your debts. We talk about building and understanding credit. We talk about savings. We want you to make sure that you have an emergency fund and that you have funds for your cash flow to go into as well. And when we talk about investing, we just talk about really what does long-term security look like for you? How can we get you started on that track towards investing? And as I mentioned, I really want to start and talk about our core principles. There are really certain things that we hold dear at Third Decade and that our philosophy really focuses on. These are things that we all want you to learn and understand as you begin your financial journey towards success. We call our core principles the Magnificent Seven. So that name may make some of you think about a movie that came out in the 1960s, or there was a remake that happened recently. But when we talk about our Magnificent Seven, it's 7 core principles that we think everyone needs to know as they go on their financial journey. So when we say that, we're referring to ways of thinking and acting that occupy the intersection within this Venn diagram. These are things that matter in the context of your financial life, and they're also things that you specifically can control. A person's behavior is a key factor in the degree of success they achieve on their financial security path. We feel the Magnificent Seven can help guide your behavior in ways that will benefit you both now and moving forward into the future. We kept it to 7. We kept it short and sweet when developing these principles so that it can be something that you take away with you, that you know, understand, and learn, and that you practice in your lives moving forward. So we're going to spend some time diving into each principle as we move forward now. First principle of the Magnificent Seven is start today. Listen, start today. That's number one thing we want to talk about, and that's why it's first. So you can also think of this as using time as your advantage. It is the most important asset that you have as a person currently today, and specifically a UWM alumni. It's free to everybody the day you were born, and people like Warren Buffett wish they had more of it, and we're going to show you why it's important and how to take advantage of it. I'm going to ask this question. What is your greatest financial asset? think about that for a second. What is your greatest financial asset? Is it your intelligence? Because you can use your intelligence to get money in different ways. Is it your scholarship money that you got if you're still in college, or that allowed you to not have too much debt? High future income as you're starting into the workforce? Is it Bitcoins that somebody gave you or that you end up buying and got larger and increasing worth as they move forward? Or is it your entrepreneurial spirit that's going to take you farther? So when it comes to achieving financial independence, the greatest thing that you have available for you is time. So one thing I want to underscore is that when you're young, you can turn a little bit of money into a lot of money just by being patient. Time is your friend. All those things that we think about that represent financial security to us, whether that's generational wealth, travel, home ownership, lack of stress, that's all achievable if you take advantage of this number one asset, which is time. Compound interest is going to be the tool that you're going to primarily use to take advantage of the fact that you're young and you have that time and you're able to start today. Compound interest is when you earn interest on both the money you've saved and the interest you've earned. So we're going to look at some examples now of the power of compound interest. So everybody take a look at this chart. Starting early in terms of your savings and investing is one of the most powerful things you can do to achieve financial security. This graph from Business Insider shows the savings trajectory of two separate individuals, the purple one and the green one, who have very similar savings behaviors. Each is saving $1,000 per year and earning 7% annual return on those funds. The only difference is that one individual started saving at 25, the purple one, as you can see, and the other at 35, the green one. In terms of total principal saved, the person who started at age 25 only saved $10,000 more than the person who began this pattern at age 35. So $10,000 difference in the amount of savings. But as you look at the chart, it shows that there's that different starting times had a dramatic impact on where they're going to end up with that 65. The person who started saving at 25 will have an account balance of over 210 after 40 years of savings, more than twice as much as the person who started saving at age 35, who ends up with just a little over $100,000 of savings. This is a powerful illustration of compound interest. Here's another prime example of that. This is a chart from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, and it also communicates the value of starting to invest as early as possible. In this specific chart, we're going to see the results of two different investors like the last one, each investing $5,000 per year and earning 8% annual return on their investment. Investor one starts investing $5,000 per year at the age of 25 to 35, and then never invest a single dollar. So if you see that blue chart, they only had 10 years of investments. They put $50,000 in and didn't put any more in. Investor two saved $150,000 starting after the age of 35. Now, if you simply look at it, investor two, because investor one's money benefited from 10 more years of compound interest, you'll see the major difference in how much they're going to end up having when they get to age 65. No matter a person's age, they can benefit from compounding returns over time. So the one who started investing later, they're still going to have some solid returns, but not as much as the person who just invested early and stopped and look how much their funds grew. So we like this concept that we kind of keep it simple, and we call it 60 by 30. This was an absolutely mind-blowing stat when I got to third decade and learned about this statistic. If you save $60,000 by the age of 30 and invest the way that we're going to teach you how at third decade, never even adding a single penny after the age of 30, you're going to have over $1 million at retirement. Let me underscore that. If you do 60,000 investing by the age of 30 and don't touch it at all, the market would do its thing. Compound interest would do its thing, and you'll have $1 million at retirement. Now, $1 million may not be, everybody's, target goal for retirement, but it's a symbol of having a lot of money and a good amount of money when it comes to thinking about retirement. So we want to use that. So 60 by 30 is a principle that we want to really enforce in you so that folks can really start digging in early. Once you graduate, once you start your first job, start really getting onto that savings journey. Now, just really quick, I want to highlight, these two different folks' path to $1 million. As I mentioned, there's compound interest is the way to go. This person is 25 years old. They started an initial investment at zero. they're putting in $250 a month into their savings. In 40 years, 9% rate of return, they'll have $1 million. This person at 35 who just started, zero initial investment, they would have to put in $615 a month to by the age of 65 to reach that $1 million. So if you start early, you have to put in less. The other person was putting in 250. This person is putting in 615 to get to the same result at the age of 65. So again, start early is something we really want to underscore. And it's something that we want you all to begin to think about as you move forward in your journey, your career and financial journeys. And I just want to give you an example of wasted potential when it comes to starting early. As I mentioned, I graduated in 2003 from UWM, and the very first thing I did was run out and buy a brand new 51-inch television from American TV over on Brown Deer Road, and I paid $2,000 for that television. Now think about that, $2,000 for a 51-inch TV in 2003, top of the line, projection, HD had just came out. I was the happiest guy in life. Was that a foolish purchase? Absolutely. Just look at this chart. If I would have saved that $2,000 instead of going to buy that TV, I would have over $11,000 in savings at this point in time, just with the power of compound interest. So I got some enjoyment out the TV. The 2003 NBA Finals were pretty amazing. But what could I do with $12,000 in my savings account right now? Take a look at this quote. Do not save what is left after spending, spend what is left after saving. Can you guess who said that? The richest guy in the world, Warren Buffett. What we're talking about here, it's a mindset. You have to think of your financial goals as non-negotiable bills and make sure you're funding your those goals as your bills moving forward. So don't, it's not about spending what you have left. You want to make sure you prioritize what you're spending and your future and using compound interest to your advantage as much as possible. That's the first one, start today. Let's talk about the second principle of Magnificent Seven, which is go long. So a question for you. You may have heard this question before. Would you rather have $1 million today or a single penny that doubles every day for a month? Think about that for a second. $1 million today or a single penny that doubles every month. Notice that go long is closely connected to the principle, number one, of start today. And that sooner you start saving and investing, the more time your savings can accumulate returns. What this chart shows you about the penny is that it's going to be earning 100% daily compound interest returns over 30 days, which is the same as starting with the penny and doubling your money each day for a month. So as the table shows, after 30 days, someone participating in this hypothetical savings scheme would end up with $5.4 million. Now, when most people see a question like this, you start to do some mental math. You're like, okay, 1 penny, 2 pennies, 4 pennies, 8 pennies, 16 pennies, 32 pennies. And that's kind of where you stop and assume that the $1 million up front is going to be a much better deal for you. So notice that we don't really see the large sums of money in the table until the last couple days, where you're getting to day 28 with the 1.3, 29, 2.7, and then day 30 of 5.4. The same is true when you think about your retirement and when you think about your long-term savings. And the last 10 years of savings for retirement is when your balances were really super impressive. Here's our old buddy Warren Buffett again. Once again, we want to highlight Warren Buffett, who stands by our second principle of going long, as evidenced by these two quotes. We want to start early and we want to hold for a long time. So our favorite holding period is forever. If you aren't willing to own a stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes. Some of you, obviously, a lot of people want to play the stock market. You want to think about Robinhood, but there is a stat that's kind of alarming. 90% of people who buy individual stocks will lose money using their own buy-sell strategies. One of the things we talk about in our program at Third Decade is we teach you to get into solid investment tools and hold your funds for the long run. On to the third principle of the Magnificent Seven, which is understanding risk and reward. Take a look at this chart. This is pretty much a pyramid talking about lower risk, higher risk, and some of the reward for that. So in our curriculum, we remind people that there is a direct relationship between risk, which is the chance of losing money, and reward, the returns you can earn on your financial assets. What this graphic communicates is that distinct relationship between risk and rewards. As you move from the base of the pyramid towards the peak, those financial assets you see become more risky, but also offer the possibility of higher returns. So you see at the base of the pyramid, there's very safe assets like traditional savings accounts, CDs from banks, all these, with many of these being FDIC insured. These assets are very unlikely to lose value, and because they're very low risk, you get a very small rate of return on those. Many savings accounts are paying 0.01 interest, but it's safe. Your money is safe in the bank. So this situation is similar for assets as you move up. U.S. government bonds are considered safe because the government doesn't need to offer higher interest rates to incentivize investors to buy their safe bonds. But at the very top of the pyramid, what you see is assets like stock in smaller companies, collectibles, junk bonds, things of that nature, because these are assets that have high risk. It's only the possibility of very attractive returns that lead investors to purchase them. So you're going to get a high return, but they're very volatile and very risky. So when we talk about what we learn at third decade, you learn strategies for managing the risk-reward relationship. You see that you can maximize your returns and minimize your risk by slowly adjusting how you allocate investment dollars to these different kinds of assets over your lifetime. As you mentioned, time is one of the biggest tools. So there's going to be times where you're going to have to, where you want that higher risk and you're able to take that risk. And there's going to be times in your life where you want low risk for low return. So we talk a lot about what those look like within our classes at third decade. And again, it all depends on time for those. So another aspect of that, this conversation is diversification. So let's think about it. Would you rather have 100% ownership of one race car or 10% ownership of 10 race cars? When we talk about diversification, picking the right mix of assets is a great way to avoid risk. Which one of these carries a greater risk? Let's see, if I own 100% of a race car and I crash it, I lose everything. If I own 10% of 10 race cars, if one of them crashes, I still have 90% of my funds in the other race cars and we can keep driving. So diversification is important in thinking about risk as well too. And again, this is a very busy chart, but I just want to underscore that no one really knows the future. So take a look at the chart. If you look at the light blue, which is small cap, you'll see how it bounced around throughout the years. In 2013, it was the highest return. 2016, it was the highest return. 2020, it was the highest return. 2007, negative return, second to last. The point is that no one knows what a particular company or asset class is going to do in the future. This is a game many people try to play, and you really can't guess at it too often. Nobody really knows how to predict the future, whether you're a professional in this or not. So when we talk about risk and return, understand that nobody knows the future, and it's hard to predict actual winners. This is why diversification is super important. So the fourth principle of the Magnificent Seven is be cheap, at least when it comes to paying fees to invest and other aspects of your money. Fees are not always transparent, and most people need to do some digging in order to be well informed about what fees they're paying. Just remember this, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Now, economists say this all the time. If you think you are investing for free, you are likely mistaken. When you are investing, you rely on the services of financial institutions, and they understandably do not perform them for free. Some providers, however, charge fees that are significantly higher than the others. At Third Decade, we try to teach people how to avoid unnecessary fees when it comes to your savings and your investment accounts. This is a good example of how fees can cost you in the long run. Take a look at this. This table highlights the impact of fees on your investment balances. The data here is based on someone saving $500 a month or $6,000 per year. Say it's a Roth IRA. The data assumes the investor is earning 8% annual rate of return, which is a reasonable assumption, particularly if this person is investing in a diversified collection of assets. If this person were to pay no fees, you'll see their account balance after 30 years will be over $730,000. However, if you go down 4 lines and the fees equal to 1%, their balance would fall by over $127,000. Now, 1% sounds small when you think about it, but remember the effects of compounding dramatically magnify fees impact on your account balances. The fees you pay as an investor and saver make a huge difference on what you end up with in the long term. You should be looking for low-cost savings tools to make sure you reach all of your financial goals. And just a quick note on the F word, fiduciary. Investing is very confusing when starting out and thinking about your future and where to put your funding and how to start that savings goal. There are a lot of unfamiliar language, and essential information like fees associated with various financial assets is not always easy to find. It can be super difficult to find sometimes. So one key term that a person should understand is the word fiduciary. It's the legal standard that requires someone who acts as a fiduciary to put your best interest before their own. So whenever you seek professional advice or guidance, if that's a path you want to go down, it's very important that you work with a fiduciary. Moving on to the fifth principle. The fifth principle of the Magnificent Seven is be strategic. Strategic financial plan is supremely important as you think about where you're headed at in your life and what goals you specifically want. This principle is about staying on top of factors that are often out of sight and therefore out of mind. 3 of those issues are highlighted here. We have taxes, credit score, inflation. Sometimes you don't really think about those. Sometimes they're out of sight, out of mind. And then boom, you get smacked over the head with the bad credit, or your credit's not where you want it to be, or you owe taxes and you have to figure out. There are certain things that being strategic and having a plan and thinking about these things on a consistent basis will take you, and you need to have that plan. One way of thinking about a plan is thinking about your budget. We think every single person, no matter what, should have a budget to outline how they're going to be moving forward with their expenses, and they know specifically what those specific expenses look like. So what a budget is, it's a tool we use to help us spend and save according to our highest priorities and goals. It is not something we should aim to master for the sake of mastering budgeting, but to help us achieve our goals. This could be something like, yes, I finished my budget, I mastered it, and boom, you put it in the closet, don't ever look at it. A budget should be something that's ongoing, something that you're updating, something that you know and understand very thoroughly, so it's not mastering it for the sake of mastering it. And what it is a spending and savings plan we outline when we are in a rational frame of mind. When you have time to sit down, think about your budget, look at your finances the previous month, and really just take an opportunity to just dive in, hone in, and find out where you need to be headed. There are so many tools that are available. There's many, many great apps that are available to really just capture your budget. I'm sure whether you're at a bank or credit union, they have wonderful budget apps nowadays, but there's some private ones as well, but there's no excuse not to have a specific budget. So I do want to note one thing though. We do know that budgeting can be triggering to a lot of people. Lots of us come from various backgrounds, and when you hear the term budgeting, a lot of us didn't learn much about budgeting or the proper way to budget or just how to have a good relationship with finances. How many of you all, when you get don't pay your bills until you get the third and final notice, or you kind of hide from past due things, or you let things get past due? That kind of ties into our idea of that, that traumatization that we have from our past a lot when it comes to dealing with money and thinking about budgets. So a lot of us really are scared to put together budgets. And it's something we encounter at Third Decade often. We hear that often, that people just are not ready to have these conversations or haven't had these conversations, and we try to bring them along to know that it's important. So, but again, a major aspect to any financial strategy is to build a strategic budget. So my daughter absolutely loved Dora the Explorer when she was a kid, and she's in college now, and she's about the same age as some of you all who are on the path towards graduating or have graduated. And I like to use this as a simple example. Some of you may have seen Dora. You guys remember the map. What a budget is essentially is a roadmap to where you want to go. Simple as that. It's going to talk about where your money is, what you want to spend that money on, and what you need to spend that money on. So it's going to take you from point A in the month to point B in the month, all the way to point C, D, E, F, Z. So start a budget as soon as possible. Get your money down on paper or in the app so that you know exactly where your money is headed towards, and you can make adjustments based upon where you need to be. And this applies to folks at any income range and at any level at this point in time. Oh, I also want to introduce this term when we think about budgeting and how we spend, this idea of the hedonic treadmill. So, what is the hedonic treadmill? It's a theory that suggests that humans have a tendency to return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite whatever changes in their circumstance or external conditions are. So, think about it. Essentially, you have a baseline level of happiness, whether you're going through a rough patch or you're splurging on a trip to Vegas. So, just imagine there's a straight line. You get a bonus at work, you're going to be extremely happy. At some point, you're going to come back down to normal. Or you have to fix your car, something went wrong, you drop down that baseline, you get your car fixed. 6 months later, you're back up to that level of happiness. So the whole idea of the hedonic treadmill is don't go up and down. We want to stay straight and rational with that level that we know we can be when it comes to managing our finances. The idea behind this is do not try to spin your way towards happiness or spin your way out of sadness, because you're going to be back to the normal level that you need to be soon. Follow your plan, your budget, your savings and spending plans, and your strategies, and you will be okay. Some easy ways to think about how to do this are socialize with like budgeted people. This can get us in a lot of trouble if all of your friends want to go out to the club and spend all their money and buy bottles, and that's not a situation for you. You want to be with people who are like-minded so that you all can be on the same level and think about how you're spending your discretionary funding when you're with your friends. Recognize your wants versus needs. This is something you definitely need to do. We all have things we want. Do I want that new PlayStation 5, or can I play PlayStation 4 for a little bit? What's my needs versus my wants? Certain things you have to get versus certain things you want to get. If you want to get those things, make sure you have a plan in place, as we mentioned, a budget and a strategy to make sure you can get those things. And don't spend beyond your means. Again, we can get into a position where we try to keep up with the Joneses and we try to spend above our means when we know it's not for us. Take a look at this quote that kind of sums it up. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. I think that is a supremely powerful quote. It's basically saying don't try to keep up with the Joneses. So again, we buy things we do not need with money we do not have to impress people we don't like. So as you move forward, surround yourself with people who are really going to enforce your goals and help you reach the level that you really need to be. In there, the sixth principle of the Magnificent Seven is to stay focused. Let's take a moment to read this comic. The pilot has indicated we are going to experience a little turbulence. Please fasten your seatbelts. We're going to die, the guy screams out. Oh, he's a financial reporter. Following financial news too closely may scare you into making frequent short-sighted changes to your investment, savings, and spending habits as well. So this is a visualization basically of something we've all experienced at some point in time. So I'm curious, we want to be able to drown out this news and this information that we're hearing all over the place. How many of you all get your financial advice from TikTok or Instagram? Now, I'm sure if we could see a show of hands, a lot of people are listening to the quote unquote financial gurus out on TikTok and on Instagram, and some of their advice may be correct. A lot of the things that you're hearing out there are incorrect and could be steering you in the wrong direction. Financial reporters, personal finance personalities who have their own shows or their own websites and pages and social media, they're going to be hyperbolic to get you in to have views. They're going to be hyperbolic in their commentary and in their advice to you and the rest of the audience. They're going to promote the idea that there are hot stock tips that you can act on to outperform the market, or certain things you need to be buying and doing at this stage of your life. And there are times you should dump big money into either your portfolio or into other things as well too. So this is going to contrast strongly with our message at Third Decade, which is to focus on your long-term plan. We really want you to focus on your long-term plan. Research indicates that people who panic when there's a downturn in the market and sell a lot of their assets often do worse than people who leave their assets alone and ride the market wave. So for the most part, we're going to recommend you ignore the day-to-day news and what social media tells you about what's happening in the market or in the financial world. Excuse me. Last but not least, we've made it to the end. The final principle of the Magnificent Seven is in perpetuity. You can see here, there's a reason why these are bricked up like this. You can see that we've used these 7 principles as building blocks for a brick wall. This is meant to signify a strong foundation in letting these principles guide us on our foundational journey as we hope to be financially independent and financially secure. What do we mean by in perpetuity? We expect that the education that you get from third decade and that you're learning a little bit snip of today will be immediately beneficial to you. But we want you to think about a person's progress towards financial security as creating a positive ripple effect, like the raindrop you see there, a multiplier effect that will benefit others. As someone learns more and more about managing their finances, they can pass that information on to their friends and family. They're going to slowly improve the financial health of their community. They may even find themselves down the road able to financially support the causes and institutions, such as UWM, wonderful cause and institution, obviously, that they care about, generating positive effects even beyond their lifetime. This is an example of that in that picture. We talk about alumni. Our alumni are financially secure, are on the path towards financial security, and they have the education and tools to get there. We want them to spread that to their family, spread that to their friends, spread that to the community, and hopefully we create a new generation of philanthropists with all the folks in which we can touch. Our program, we hear such great feedback, and we want to see what we can do to get as many UWM alumni into third decade, to get our 10-hour program, to get our mentoring, and to really get them on the path towards financial success and financial stability. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm excited for all of you listening to be able to be on a journey towards financial success. And now, if there's any questions, we can take the time to answer some.
Hey, I want to ask a quick question.
Go ahead.
What is the medium of teaching in that particular 10-hour course, and how much would that be? How much would that cost?
There is no cost. Our program is totally free for folks throughout the country. We just ask that you have a commitment to attending our sessions and that you have a commitment to being with the mentor. So it's 100% virtual. So there's 10 hours of virtual education. We start our new classes on the quarter. So we're going to be starting a new cohort come July. So there's still time to sign up for a July class, or if you want to wait till October, there's that. And you would take there's 4 2.5-hour classes, or if those don't work for your time, you can take our classes asynchronously through our learning management system. And then once you're finished, we would assign you to a mentor and get you started continuing on your financial journey. So you feel free to take a look at our website and apply and sign up. But our classes are 100% virtual. Our mentoring is 100% virtual as well too. And we try to really work at your pace by offering those asynchronous classes if necessary.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, it looks like we do not have any more questions. I would like to once again thank you, Jamar, for taking the time to join us today and sharing your advice on financial stability and how we can financially plan for post-graduation. We want to thank you all for tuning in today's presentation. If you think of any other questions on the topic today, we encourage you to contact Jamar, as his contact info is posted on the slideshow, which will be sent out to everybody after the event is over. Or you can contact the UWM Alumni Association by visiting alumni.uwm.edu. We'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.